Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I've got something seriously creepy for you, raw. First-hand account of a night that still haunts me, tied to a house that's anything but normal. This is my story from 13 Willow Street, and trust me, it's not for the faint of heart. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more real-life chills like this. Give this video a thumbs up if you're ready to dive into the eerie unknown, and make sure to click the bell icon so you're the first to know when I drop the next one. All right, let's get into it. Grab a blanket, turn off the lights, and listen close, because this is as real as it gets. I don't even know where to start with this, but I need to get it off my chest because I can't stop thinking about that night. It was back in October, and I was broke. Car was busted, tuition was due, and I couldn't say no when the Blackwoods offered me double my usual babysitting rate for one night at their place. 13 Willow Street. I'd heard the rumors about that old Victorian house, how it had been empty forever after Mrs. Fincher died there, how kids dared each other to knock on the door and run. But the Blackwoods fixed it up fast, like overnight fast, and moved in with their kid, Mabel. People in Raven's Hollow whispered about them, said they were weird, with those creepy amber eyes that didn't blink enough. I didn't care, I needed the cash. When I showed up, the house loomed over me, all sharp angles and dark windows, the kind of place that looks like it's watching you back. The paint was fresh, but it still smelled old, like damp wood and something sour I couldn't place. They handed me an envelope with half the money and a list of rules that made my stomach twist, but I brushed it off. I should have known better. The Blackwoods didn't stick around long. They just gave me this cold stare, told me Mabel was upstairs, and left in their shiny black car. The rules were nuts. No electric lights, just candles. Feed Mabel some red liquid at 10 p.m. and something blue later. Don't uncover the mirrors. Don't let her near the windows after dark. It sounded like a cult thing, but they said she had special needs, and I figured it was some medical deal I didn't get. The house was huge inside, all high ceilings and creaky floors, with this heavy stillness that made every step echo too loud. The furniture was old but polished, like someone was trying way too hard to make it normal. I lit the candles they left on the mantle, and the shadows started dancing on the walls long, jagged shapes that didn't match anything in the room. I kept hearing this faint scratching, like nails on wood, coming from behind the wallpaper. I told myself it was mice, but it didn't stop my hands from shaking. I sat on the couch, clutching that stupid list, waiting for 10 p.m. to meet Mabel. I had no idea what I was in for. By 9:30, I was already on edge. The scratching wouldn't stop, and it was getting sharper, like something was pissed off in there. I kept checking the clock on my phone, the only light I dared use besides those flickering candles, and the house felt like it was closing in. The air was thick, heavy with that sour smell, and I swear it got worse near the stairs, like something had crawled up from the basement and died halfway. The walls were covered in this faded floral wallpaper, peeling at the edges, and I kept catching these little dark spots out of the corner of my eye, like stains that moved when I wasn't looking. I tried to shake it off, told myself it was just the shadows playing tricks, but my gut was screaming at me to leave. I didn't. So stupid, right? The money was already in my pocket, and I wasn't about to ditch it over a bad vibe. I grabbed one of the candles and headed upstairs to find Mabel's room. The staircase groaned under my feet, each step feeling like it might give out, and the banister was cold, sticky almost, like it had been sweating. When I got to the top, I found her door. It was this heavy oak thing with a brass knob that looked way too old for a house they'd just renovated. I knocked, and there was this long pause before I heard her voice, all soft and raspy, say, "Come in." My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat, but I pushed the door open anyway. Mabel was sitting on her bed, this tiny pale girl with those same amber eyes her parents had, glowing almost in the candlelight. She didn't smile, just stared at me, unblinking, holding this little rag doll that looked like it'd been stitched together from something nasty. The room was freezing, even with the candle, and it smelled worse than downstairs metallic, like old pennies. There was a small table by her bed with a glass bottle of this thick red stuff, and I remembered the rules. Feed her at 10. I checked my phone. 9:58, and my hands were trembling as I poured it into a cup. She took it without a word, slurping it down slow, and I swear I saw her teeth glint, sharp and wrong. For just a second, I wanted to run right then, but I couldn't move. I stood there, frozen, watching Mabel finish that red stuff, and the sound of her swallowing made my skin crawl. It was too loud, too wet, like she was gulping something alive. The candlelight barely reached the corners of her room, but I could see the walls were bare, except for these weird scratches, like someone had clawed at them with tiny hands. The floorboards were scuffed up too, deep gouges that didn't look random, almost like a pattern I couldn't figure out. She put the cup down and wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, leaving a smear of red that didn't look like juice or medicine. It looked like blood. I tried to play it cool, asked her if she was okay, but my voice came out all shaky. She just tilted her head, those amber eyes locked on me, and said, "You're new." Miss Winters didn't like the rules either. My stomach dropped. Who the hell was Miss Winters? I didn't ask though. I was too freaked out. The scratching from downstairs got louder, and I swear I heard it echo in her room too, like it was following me. She slid off the bed then, barefoot, and walked over to this old leather book on her nightstand. Her bedtime story, she called it. I didn't want to read her anything, but the rules said I had to. So I sat on the edge of her bed, trying not to touch the damp, cold sheets. The book was heavy, the cover worn and stained, and when I opened it, the pages smelled like mold and something sharp, like rust. It was called The Sapling and the Root, and as I started reading, my voice cracked. This wasn't a kid's story. It was about a tree growing in the dark, tied to some deep root that fed it over generations, waiting for a seventh child to ripen or some crap like that. Mabel's eyes lit up as I read, and she started humming, this low, buzzing sound that made my head hurt. The candle flickered hard, like a draft hit it, but the window was shut tight. I kept going, even though every word felt like it was choking me, because stopping felt worse. Halfway through, I heard a thud downstairs, like something heavy fell in. Mabel giggled, whispering, "They're awake now." I didn't want to know who they were. I slammed the book shut after that thud, my hand shaking so bad I almost dropped it. And Mabel just stared at me, her little smirk making me feel sick. I asked her what she meant by "they're awake," but she didn't answer, just kept humming that creepy tune, rocking back and forth on her heels. The air in her room got colder, and I could see my breath puffing out in little clouds, even though it was October, not freezing winter. The scratching was everywhere, now behind the walls, under the floor, like whatever it was had spread through the whole house. I grabbed the candle and stood up, telling her it was time to sleep, hoping I could just tuck her in and hide downstairs until the Blackwoods got back. But when I turned to the door, it was shut tight, hadn't closed it, and the knob wouldn't turn. My chest tightened, and I started yanking at it, but it was like the house didn't want me to leave. Mabel giggled again, louder this time, and said, "You can't go yet. It's not time." I spun around, and she was right behind me, way too close, her eyes glowing brighter than the candle should have let them. I backed up against the door, my heart hammering, and that's when I noticed the shadows moving, not just from the candle, but on their own. They slid across the walls, these thin, jagged shapes, like kids with too long arms, stretching and twisting in ways that made no sense. I blinked hard, thinking I was losing it, but they didn't stop. They got clearer, sharper, like they were stepping out of the dark. Mabel clapped her hands, all excited, and said, "The others are here. They like you." I wanted to scream, but my throat locked up, and all I could do was stare as those shadows started peeling off the walls. Not flat anymore, but solid, hovering just above the floor. The room smelled worse now, like rot and wet dirt, and I could hear this faint whispering, too quiet to make out, but loud enough to make my head spin. I clutched the candle tighter, the wax dripping hot on my hand, and told myself this wasn't real, it couldn't be. But then one of those things reached out, its bony little fingers brushing my arm, and I felt it cold, real, and wrong. I jerked back, slamming into the door again, and Mabel laughed like it was the funniest thing she'd ever seen. I couldn't breathe right anymore, my chest was all tight, and that cold touch from the shadow thing left my arm numb, like it had sucked the warmth right out of me. I yelled at Mabel to make it stop, my voice cracking, but she just tilted her head again and said, "They don't listen to me, they listen to the house." What the hell did that even mean? I didn't have time to figure it out, because the whispering got louder, turning into this low guttural chant that vibrated in my skull. The shadows, the others she'd called them, started circling me, their shapes flickering between kids and something else, something with too many joints and eyes that glinted in the dark. The candle was barely holding on, the flame shrinking like it was scared too, and I could see more scratches on the walls now, fresh ones, like they were being carved right in front of me. I banged on the door again, screaming for help, but the sound just died, swallowed up by the house. Mabel grabbed my wrist then, her her grip way too strong for a kid, and her skin felt rough, like bark, not human at all. She dragged me back to the bed, and I tripped over something a gouge in the floor that hadn't been there before, and landed hard, the candle rolling away, but somehow not going out. Up close, her face was wrong, her mouth stretched too wide, and her teeth weren't just sharp anymore. They were jagged, like splinters sticking out of her gums. She leaned in, those amber eyes huge, and whispered. Miss Winters tried to run too. She's still here. I scrambled back, my hands scraping the floor, and that's when I saw it under her bed. This dark stain that looked wet, spreading out like it was alive. The smell hit me hard, copper and decay, and I gagged, realizing it wasn't just a stain, it was moving, pulsing, like something was bleeding out from the wood itself. The shadows crowded closer, their chanting getting faster, and I swear the walls started bending, bowing in like the house was breathing. Mabel climbed onto the bed, her body twisting weirdly, her arms stretching out too long, and I saw her fingers split, branching like twigs. I couldn't tell if I was screaming or just thinking that everything was spinning, and I knew I was trapped with whatever she was turning into. I couldn't look away from her. Mabel's body was snapping and cracking now, like bones breaking, but she didn't even flinch, just kept smiling that awful splintered grin. Her arms were full-on branches, thin and gnarled, reaching out toward me, and her legs twisted under her like roots digging into the bed. I scrambled to my feet, grabbing the candle off the floor, and held it up like it'd do something, but the flame was so weak it barely lit her face. The shadows, the others, were everywhere, darting around her, like they were feeding off whatever was happening. The stain under the bed spread faster, creeping up the walls now, and I saw it wasn't just blood, it had these tiny veins running through it, pulsing red and black, like the house was growing something alive. The chanting was deafening, words I didn't know but felt deep in my gut, and I swear the floor tilted under me, like the whole room was shifting. I lunged for the door again, slamming my shoulder into it, and this time it gave just a crack, but enough to see the hallway. I didn't care about the rules anymore. I had to get out. The hallway wasn't any better. It was pitch black, except for my candle, and the scratching was so loud it sounded like the walls were screaming. I stumbled down the stairs, my legs shaking so bad I almost fell, and the air got thick, like I was wading through mud. The banister was slick now, coated in this slimy stuff that smelled like the rot in Mabel's room, and I yanked my hand back, wiping it on my jeans. The shadows followed me, their shapes spilling down the stairs behind me, and I could hear Mabel's voice distorted, deeper, calling out, "You're breaking the rules, Eliza." I hit the bottom step and froze. The front door was right there, but it was covered in salt, a thick line of it piled up like someone had tried to lock something in or out. The windows were the same, salt crusted along the sills, glowing faintly in the dark. I didn't know what it meant, but it made my skin crawl worse than before. Then the candle went out, no wind, no nothing, just go Nan. I heard her footsteps, slow and heavy, coming down the stairs. I was screwed, and I knew it. I couldn't see a damn thing without the candle. Just this suffocating darkness pressing in, and Mabel's footsteps were getting closer. Thump, 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 like she was dragging something heavy behind her. I fumbled for my phone in my pocket, hands shaking so bad I almost dropped it, and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the black, and I wish it hadn't. Her shadow stretched down the stairs, all wrong, with those branching arms swaying like they were alive. The salt line at the door was glowing brighter now, this weird bluish light, and it buzzed like it was fighting to keep something back. I backed up, tripping over a rug, and hit the wall hard, the impact knocking the air out of me. The scratching exploded around me, so loud I clapped my hands over my ears. But it didn't help, it was inside my head too. I swung the flashlight around, and the living room looked different, furniture shoved aside, walls dripping with that veiny red-black stuff, like the house was bleeding out. I heard her giggle again, right behind me, and I spun around, but she wasn't. There just empty air and that damn sound. I bolted for the kitchen, thinking maybe there'd be a back door, something, anything to get out. The floor was sticky under my shoes, and when I shone the light down, it was covered in that same pulsing mess from upstairs, spreading like it was chasing me. The kitchen was a wreck, cabinets hanging open, the sink full of that blue liquid from the rules, stinking like chemicals and rot. I saw the back door, but it was boarded up, nails bent and rusted like they'd been there forever. The salt was here too, smeared across the wood in sloppy streaks, and it was flickering like it was losing power. I turned back, And that's when I saw the others crawling out of the corners, their bony hands scraping the floor, eyes like pinpricks of light staring right at me. Mabel's voice came again, echoing from everywhere. You should have read the whole story. My phone buzzed in my hand, then an emergency number from the Blackwood's list, and I didn't think twice, just hit call. The line crackled, and a man's voice barked, "Stay put, we're coming." I didn't know who he was, but I was too terrified to care. I crouched down behind the kitchen counter, clutching my phone like it was a lifeline, the flashlight beam shaking as I tried to keep it on the others, creeping closer. They were muttering now, not just chanting little whispers like "she's ripe" and "the root's hungry," and it made my stomach twist so hard I thought I'd puke. The salt lines were fading fast, the glow dimming, and I could hear it crackling, like it was burning out. The air felt alive, buzzing against my skin, and the walls were full on pulsing now, that red-black stuff oozing out in thick globs that hit the floor with wet splats. I peeked over the counter, and Mabel was at the bottom of the stairs, except she wasn't Mabel anymore. Her body was this twisted, tree-like thing, all splintered limbs and a face that was half hers, half something else, with roots sprouting from her mouth. She moved jerky, like a puppet, and those amber eyes were gone, just black holes now, leaking that same veiny crap. I ducked back down, biting my lips so hard I tasted blood, praying whoever was on that call would get here soon. Then I heard tires screeching outside, doors slamming, and this loud bang at the front door, like someone was trying to break it down. The others hissed, scattering back into the shadows, and Mabel, or whatever she was, let out this guttural screech that shook the whole house. I risked a look and saw flashlight beams cutting through the windows, voices shouting orders I couldn't make out. The front door burst open, salt flying everywhere, and these people in tactical gear stormed in, guns with weird attachments, bags of salt, and some kind of glowing rods. One of them spotted me and yelled, "Get down!" I hit the floor just as they started throwing salt at Mabel, the stuff sizzling when it touched her, and she screamed again, thrashing those brain charms. They hit her with the rods, and this blinding light exploded out, making my eyes water. The house groaned, like it was pissed, and the pulsing stopped for a second, but only a second. The guy who'd yelled grabbed my arm, dragging me toward the door, and barked, "Threshold Division, you're lucky, we made it." I didn't know what that meant, but I didn't care. I just wanted out. The threshold guy hauled me out the front door, and the cold night air hit me like a slap, clearing my head just enough to realize how bad I was shaking. I stumbled onto the lawn, my shoes still sticky from that crap inside, and looked back. Those tactical people were still fighting Mabel, or whatever she'd become, their lights flashing and salt flying everywhere. Her screeches were getting weaker, but the house was alive, windows rattling like it was trying to shake them off. The guy holding my arm, he had this patch on his vest, a weird symbol like a circle with a slash through it, shoved me toward a black van parked crooked on the street. "Stay here," he snapped, then ran back in, leaving me alone with the sound of that thing howling inside. I could see neighbors peeking out their windows, but nobody came out, guessed. They knew better. My phone was still in my hand, screen cracked from when I'd dropped it, and I saw the time. 1:17 a.m. It felt like I'd been in there for days, not hours. I leaned against the van, trying to catch my breath, but then I heard this low rumble like the ground itself was growling, and the house started shaking harder. The team came running out, one of them dragging a bag that looked heavy, and I saw Mabel's rag doll sticking out of it, soaked in that red-black goo. The leader, a woman with a scar across her cheek, yelled, "It's not holding, get the binding up." They started pouring salt in a circle around the house, chanting something fast and sharp, and the air got heavy again, like it was pushing back. I watched half numb as Mabel's shape slammed against the front window, her branch arms splintering the glass but not breaking through. The salt glowed bright again, stronger this time, and she shrank back, hissing. The woman turned to me, her face hard, and said, "You're done here. Forget this." Before I could say anything, one of the guys jabbed something into my neck, a needle, I think, and my vision went blurry. Last thing I remember was the house going quiet, like it had just stopped. Then I was out cold. I woke up on my couch at home, sunlight stabbing my eyes, and for a second I thought it was all a dream, till I saw the bruises on my arms, these ugly purple marks where Mabel and that shadow thing had grabbed me. My phone was next to me, battery dead, and there was this crumpled note in my pocket I didn't remember grabbing. "Leave it alone. Threshold, thanks you. My head was pounding, foggy like someone had messed with it, and I couldn't piece together how I'd gotten back. I checked the clock, 10 a.m. and realized I'd lost hours, maybe more. My jeans were still stained with that sticky rot, and my shoes were caked in dried salt. Proof it wasn't just in my head. I stumbled to the bathroom, splashed water on my face, and saw my reflection pale eyes bloodshot, like I hadn't slept in days. I kept hearing that scratching in my ears, faint but there, and it made me gag all over again. I wanted to call someone, anyone, but that note stuck with me. Leave it alone. Yeah, right. I couldn't sit still, so I drove past 13 Willow Street later that day, hands sweaty on the wheel, just to see if it was real. The house looked normal too, normal fresh paint, gleaming, windows shut tight, no sign of the hell I'd seen inside. The salt was gone, the lawn perfect, like nothing had happened. But then I saw them. A new family unloading boxes from a truck. The Crawfords I'd heard someone say in town. There was a girl with them, small, pale, with those damn amber eyes, staring right at me as I slowed down. My stomach flipped. She looked like Mabel, but not quite, like a copy with something off. I sped off, heart racing, telling myself it was over, that threshold, whatever had fixed it. But that night, my phone buzzed charger hadn't even touched it yet. There was a text from an unknown number. We need a sitter again. 13 Willow, tomorrow. I stared at it, and shaking, and deleted it fast, like that'd make it go away. It didn't. The scratching in my head got louder, and I swear I heard her giggle Mabel's giggles somewhere in my apartment. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those branching arms, that twisted face, and the way the house breathed like it was alive. The giggling wouldn't stop either. It was faint, like it was coming from the walls of my own place now. And I kept checking the corners, expecting to see those shadow kids staring back. I tried to distract myself, turned on the TV, but the static kept cutting in. And once I swear I heard Mabel's voice say, "You're still ours." I yanked the plug out, heart pounding, and sat there in the dark, clutching a kitchen knife I didn't even know how to use. My arms ached where the bruises were, and when I rolled up my sleeve, they looked worse darker, with these thin, veiny lines spreading out, like that red-black crap was under my skin now. I scrubbed at them in the sink until they bled, but it didn't help. The note from Threshold was still on the table, mocking me, and I kept wondering what they'd shot me with, something to make me forget. Maybe, but it wasn't working right. I couldn't shake the feeling I was still tied to that house. By morning, I was a Rakan's shaky eyes, burning, but I couldn't just sit there. I dug through my stuff, found the envelope from the Blackwoods with the half payment, and inside was a scrap of paper I hadn't noticed before. 7 cycles, 7 fruits, the root weights. It hit me hard, that story I'd read to Mabel, the sapling and the deep root, generations of some screwed up pact. I Googled the Blackwoods, 13 Willow Street, anything. But all I got was Old Town records saying the house had changed hands every 8 years since 1897. Always 2 families with amber-eyed kids. My head spun. Had I stumbled into some cult thing? Or worse? I thought about calling the cops, but what would I say? Hey, I babysat a tree monster and now it's haunting me. Then my phone buzzed. Again, same, unknown number. Tonight, 13 Willow. Don't break the rules. I threw it across the room, watched it smash against the wall. But the screen lit up anyway, glowing in the dark. I didn't want to go back, but something in me made me fear. Maybe that damn giggle knew. I didn't have a choice. I spent the whole day pacing my apartment, jumping at every creak, every shadow, like the house had followed me home. The bruises on my arms were spreading, those veiny lines creeping up past my elbows now, and they itched like something was moving under there, which made me want to claw my skin off. I tried calling a friend, just to hear a normal voice. But my phone wouldn't connect, kept dropping, like something was jamming it. The giggling was constant now, a background hum I couldn't tune out. And once I caught a whiff of that sour, metallic smell from the house, right there in my living room. I checked the windows. Nothing but the salt I'd tracked in on my shoes was still on the floor, and it was glowing faintly, just like at 13 Willow. I swept it up fast, dumped it outside, but my hands wouldn't stop trembling. That text kept burning in my brain tonight. Don't break the rules. And I hated myself for even thinking about going back. But what if I didn't? What if Mabel, or whatever she was, came for me here? I couldn't shake the feeling I was already screwed either way. Around 6 p.m., I caved. I grabbed my keys, a flashlight, and and a bag of salt from the kitchen, telling myself I'd just check it out, not stay. Driving to 13, Willow felt like a death march. My hands were sweaty on the wheel, and every stoplight felt like it was daring me to turn back. When I got there, the house looked the same, too perfect, too quiet, but the Crawfords' truck was gone, and that amber-eyed girl was on the porch, just standing there, staring at me. She didn't move, didn't blink, and I swear her shadow stretched longer than it should have, even with the sun barely down. I parked across the street, heart thudding, and clutched the salt like it had saved me. The air was heavy again, that buzzing feeling from before, and the scratching started up the second I stepped out of the car, loud, angry, like it knew I was back. The girl tilted her head, same as Mabel, and said, "You're late," in this flat, raspy voice that wasn't a kid's. I froze, my mouth dry, and then the front door creaked open on its own, spilling that red-black glow out onto the lawn. I didn't want to go in, but my feet moved anyway, like something was pulling me. I stepped over the threshold, and the door slammed shut behind me so fast I jumped, dropping the salt bag. It split open, scattering across the floor, and I cursed under my breath. The girl was gone, just vanished, but I could hear her giggling somewhere deeper in the house, mixing with that damn scratching that was louder than ever. The living room was a mess. Again, furniture flipped, walls dripping with that veiny rot, like the Crawfords hadn't even tried to fix it. My flashlight beam shook as I swung it around, catching those same long shadows darting across the ceiling, too fast to follow. The air was thick, choking, and that sour smell hit me so hard I gagged worse than before, like the house was rotting from the inside out. I saw the stairs ahead, glowing faintly with that red-black light, and I knew Shiorid was up there, waiting. My legs felt like lead, but I couldn't stop myself. It was like the house was dragging me in, step by step. The salt under my feet crunched, and I prayed it'd do something, anything, to keep me safe. Halfway up the stairs, I heard it, a low, rumbling growl that shook the banister, and the walls pulsed harder, like a heartbeat. My flashlight flickered, and I smacked it against my hand, terrified it'd die on me. When I hit the top, the girl was there, standing in Mabel's room. But she wasn't just a girl anymore. Her arms were splitting, branching out like Mabel's had, and her face was twisting, roots curling out of her mouth. She didn't move, just stared, and the shadows the others swarmed around her, their bony hands clawing at the air. I yelled at her to stop, my voice hoarse, but she just giggled louder, and the floor tilted under me, throwing me against the wall. That red-black stuff was everywhere now, coating the doorway, dripping from the ceiling, and I saw it move like it was reaching for me. I threw salt at it, and it hissed, pulling back a little, but not enough. She took a step closer, her voice all warped, saying, "The root's ready. You're the last." My head spun. What the hell did that mean? And then the chanting started again, deep and fast, shaking the whole house. I backed up, slamming into the wall again, and the salt in my hand was all I had left. Ty threw it at her, at the shadows, at anything, and it sizzled where it hit, making them screech and twist away. But it didn't stop. She kept coming, those branch arms stretching out, splintered fingers brushing the air inches from my face. My flashlight died then, just blinked out, and I was stuck in that red-black glow, the only light left, painting everything in this sick, bloody haze. The chanting was so loud it hurt, rattling my teeth, and I could feel it pulling at me, like it wanted me to give up. The walls were closing in, literally bending, and that veiny rot was crawling up my legs. Now I kicked at it, screaming, but it stuck, cold and wet, like it was alive. Whatever she was, laughed, this deep, guttural sound that wasn't human, and said, "7 fruits, 7 nights, you're ripe." I didn't know what she meant, but it froze me. Ripe for what? The shadows lunged, their hands grabbing my arms, and I felt that numb, icy burn again, spreading fast. I swung wild, fists hitting nothing but air, and stumbled toward the stairs, half tripping over the pulsing floor. The house was shaking hard now, like it was about to collapse, and I heard glass shattering downstairs windows maybe, or mirrors I wasn't supposed to uncover. I didn't care. I just ran, slipping on that slimy rot, my lungs burning as I sucked in that rotten air. The shadows were right behind me, their whispers turning into shrieks, and her footsteps, or whatever they were, humped heavy, chasing me down. I hit the bottom step and saw the front door still cracked open from before, salt scattered everywhere but glowing weak, like it was giving up. I dove for it, scraping my knees bloody on the floor, and something grabbed my ankle, or branch hand, tight and sharp, digging in. I kicked back, felt it snap, and crawled out onto the lawn, gasping, the cold grass a shock after that hell inside. The house went quiet, then just stopped. No more shaking, no more chanting, like I'd flipped a switch. I looked back, and she was gone, the door swinging shut on its own, locking me out, or letting me go. I couldn't tell. I lay there on the grass, chest heaving, staring at the house as it sat there all quiet and normal again, like nothing had happened. My ankle was throbbing where she'd grabbed me, and when I pulled up my pant leg, there were these deep scratches jagged like splinters had dug in a hand. They were oozing that red-black crap. I wiped it off with my sleeve, panicking, but it kept coming, slow and thick, like it was part of me now. The salt I'd dropped was scattered across the lawn, glowing faint, and I scooped up a handful, rubbing it into the cuts. It burned like hell, but the bleeding stopped. My arms were a mess too, those veiny bruises pulsing under my skin, and I could still feel that cold numbness creeping up. I stumbled to my car, hands shaking so bad I dropped the keys twice, and locked myself in, just sitting there, waiting for something threshold, the Crawfords, anything, but nothing came. The house stayed dark, windows blank, and that girl didn't show up again. It was over, I told myself, but I didn't believe it. I drove home fast, headlights cutting through the fog, and the whole way I kept checking my rearview mirror, expecting to see her or them staring back. My apartment felt wrong when I got there, too quiet, too empty, and that giggling was gone, but it left this hole in my head, like I'd gotten used to it. I locked the door, shoved a chair under the knob, and sat on the couch, flashlight in one hand, salt in the other, watching the walls. The bruises itched worse, and when I looked closer, they weren't just bruises anymore. Teeny veins were spreading out, faint but real, like roots under my skin. I didn't sleep, couldn't, just stared at my phone, still smashed but somehow on, the cracked screen showing that last text. Tonight, 13 Willow, don't break the rules. It was 3 a.m. now, and I kept waiting for it to buzz again, for them to call me back, but it didn't. The house let me go, sure, but I couldn't shake the feeling it wasn't done with me. That ripe word stuck in my head, and I wondered if I'd already lost something, my mind, my body, something worse. I still don't know. Morning came slow, gray light creeping through my blinds, and I was still on the couch, salt spilled all over my lap from gripping it so tight. My arms looked worse in the daylight. Those veiny lines were darker, snaking up to my shoulders now, and they didn't hurt anymore, just felt cold, like my skin wasn't mine. I tried washing them off in the shower, scrubbing until I was raw, but they stayed, stubborn, like they'd grown into me. The scratches on my ankle were scabbing over, but they itched deep, like something was still moving in there, and I kept catching that sour smell on myself, faint but real. I checked my phone again, still dead, still showing that text stand. I smashed it with a hammer, just to feel like I had some control. Didn't help. I kept hearing that chant in my head, those words I didn't understand, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, half girl, half tree, smirking at me. I wanted to tell someone, but who'd believe this? I barely did, and I'd lived it. I stayed inside all day, curtains shut, jumping at every noise of the mailman, a car backfiring, anything. Around noon, I heard kids outside, laughing, and I peeked out. Normal life, like Raven's Hollow didn't care about 13 Willow Street. But then I saw it, a black car parked down the street, same kind the Blackwoods drove, just sitting there. My stomach dropped, and I ducked back, heart racing, waiting for a knock that never came. By night, I was losing. It kept checking my arms, my ankle, half expecting to sprout branches myself. Nothing happened, though. No texts, no giggling, no scratching. It was like the house had cut me loose, but I couldn't relax. I felt marked, watched. I found that scrap of paper again, 7 cycles, 7 fruits, and burned it in the sink. Watching the flames eat it up didn't make me feel better. I still don't know what they did to me, what ripe means, or why it stopped. Maybe it's waiting, biding its time, and I'm just too freaked out to see it. What do you think? Ready for the final stretch? It's been a week since that night, and I'm still jumping at shadows, still checking my skin like it's gonna turn on me. The veiny lines haven't spread more, but they're there, permanent, like some screwed up tattoo I never asked for. My ankle's healed, kind as scars now, jagged and rough, but sometimes I swear I feel that itch again, deep down, like something's still rooted in there. I don't go near 13 Willow Street anymore, heard? The Crawfords are still living there, acting normal. But I've seen that girl around town, those amber eyes locking on me every time. She doesn't say anything, just stares, and I bolt the other way, heart pounding. I keep the salt close, a bag by my bed, another in my car. But it feels useless, like whatever got in me that night can't be stopped by a handful of crystals. The giggling's gone, the chanting too, but the quiet's worse. It's like the house is holding its breath, waiting for me to slip up. I don't sleep much, just sit up, staring at the dark, wondering what I brought back with me. Yesterday, I got a letter no return address, just my name scratched on the envelope in shaky handwriting. Inside was a single line. The root remembers. I shredded it, burned the pieces, but it's stuck in my head, looping with that ripe crap, she said. I don't know what it means, Am. I parted their cycle now. Some seventh whatever they've been feeding that thing. The Blackwood's threshold. The Crawfords there, all tied to it. And I'm caught in the middle, too scared to dig deeper, but too freaked to let it go. The house stopped that night, sure, but it didn't. And it just paused, like it's done before. Every 8 years, I keep waiting for the next text, the next pull, and I hate myself for it. But I know I'd go back if they called. It's got me, somehow, and I can't explain it. Nobody believes me. Anyway, just think I'm losing it. Maybe I am. But those eyes, that smell, those roots, they're real. And they're not done with me yet. I've started noticing little things around my place that weren't there before, like scratches on the floorboards, faint but deep, like the ones in Mabel's room. I found one under my couch this morning, fresh, like it had just been carved, and I swear I didn't do it. The salt I keep by my bed was scattered one night, not spilled but spread out in a thin line, like someone or something had dragged it around. I've been hearing creaks too, not normal house settling stuff, but sharp, deliberate, like footsteps pacing just out of sight. My mirrors are covered now, towels, sheets, anything, because I keep catching glimpses of those shadows, the others, flickering in the glass when I'm not looking. The veiny lines on my arms glow, sometimes faint and quick, like they're waking up. And I can't tell if it's real or if I'm just paranoid. I don't leave the apartment much anymore, too scared I'll see that girl. Or worse, feel that pull back to 13, Willow. It's like the house left a piece of itself in me, and it's growing, slow and quiet, waiting for the right moment. Last night, I broke down and drove past the house again, not close, just far enough to see it from the end of the street. It was dark, no lights, no movement, but I could feel it watching me, same as that first night. The air buzzed, just for a second, and my scars itched so bad I scratched them raw in the car. That's when I saw her, the amber-eyed girl, standing in the yard, staring right at me, holding that rag doll Mabel had. She didn't move, didn't wave, just stood there, and I floored it out of there, hands shaking on the wheel. When I got home, my door was unlocked high. No, I'd locked it, and there was a single candle on my kitchen table, unlit, with a drop of that red liquid next to it. I threw it out, scrubbed the table, but the smell's still here, clinging to everything. I don't know how they got in, or why they're messing with me, but it's clear now. That night didn't end. It's still going, and I'm stuck in it, waiting for whatever the route wants next. I'm running out of ways to keep myself sane. Every day feels like I'm holding my breath, waiting for the house to make its next move. The scratches on my floor are multiplying. I found a new one in the bathroom yesterday, right by the sink, and it was wet, like something had dripped there before carving it in. My salt stashes keep getting messed with last night. The bag in my car was ripped open, grains stuck in the seats like they'd been rubbed in on purpose. The veiny lines on my arms are thicker now, pulsing when I'm stressed. And I've caught myself humming that tune Mabel did, low and buzzy, without even realizing it. I tried recording the creaks and giggles I hear, just to prove I'm not crazy, but my phone knew one. Since I smashed the old, won't pick up anything, just static. I've got no one to tell. My friends think I'm on edge from stress, and I can't blame them. I look like hell, all sunken eyes and shaky hands. But it's not stress, it's 13 Willow, still clawing at me, and I don't know how to make it stop. This morning, I found something that broke me, a tiny splinter, no bigger than a fingernail, stuck in the sole of my shoe. It wasn't wood, not really, it was rough, alive almost, with a faint red-black vein running through it, like the stuff that oozed out of that house. I pulled it out with tweezers, hands trembling, and it twitched, just once, before I dropped it in the sink and ran the garbage disposal. The whole time, I could hear that giggling again, soft but close, like it was right behind me. I checked my ankle scars after, and they were warm, not cold anymore, and the skin around them felt hard, like bark. I don't know what's happening to MAM, I turning into her, into them. The candle's back to A and I threw it out, but it was on my table again tonight, lit this time, flickering like it's mocking me. I blew it out, smashed it, but I can still smell that red liquid, still feel the root waiting. It's not over it, never wasn't. I'm scared I'm not me anymore. I can't trust my own head anymore last night. I woke up standing in my kitchen, no memory of getting out of bed, with salt all over my hands like I'd been pouring it in my sleep. The candle was back again, lit on the counter, and that red-black drop was there too. Bigger this time, pooling like it had just dripped. I don't know how it keeps showing up. I've thrown it out 3 times now, watched it sink in the trash outside, but it's like the house is spitting it back at me. My arms are worse. The veins are up to my neck now, faint under the skin, and when I press on them, I feel this weird thrum like a heartbeat that's not mine. The giggling's louder too. Not just in my head, I heard it from the closet an hour ago, clear as day, and when I opened it, nothing was there but a faint scratch mark on the door. I'm losing it, I know, but it's real. I've got the scars, the splinters, the proof. I just don't know what it wants, or why it won't let me go. I tried leaving town today, packed a bag, got in my car, figured I'd crash with a cousin a few hours away, and ditch this nightmare. But the second I hit the edge of Raven's Hollow, my engine died, no warning. Just cut out. That buzzing filled the air again, heavy and thick. I looked up, and there she was, the amber-eyed girl, standing in the road, ragdoll dangling from her hand. She didn't say anything, just pointed back toward town, toward 13 Willow, and my scars burned, sharp and sudden, like they were pulling me. I turned the car around, sobbing, because I knew I couldn't leave, not yet, maybe not ever. When I got home, my bag was unpacked, salt sprinkled on my bed in a circle, and that damn candle was burning bright. The root remembers, all right, and it's got me on a leash. I'm sitting here now, watching it flicker, waiting for the next pull, too scared to fight it anymore. I'm starting to see her everywhere now, not just the girl, but Mabel, or whatever she became, lurking in the edges of my vision. This afternoon, I caught her reflection in my TV screen, those branching arms, that twisted face just for a second before it blinked out. I unplugged it, threw a blanket over it, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking, and that sour smell was back, seeping out of nowhere. The veins on my neck are darker, curling up toward my jaw, and when I touch them, they're hard, like roots pushing through dirt. I tried cutting one with a knife, just a shallow slice to see what had happened, and this thick, red-black stuff oozed out, not blood, not even close sand. It smelled like that house. I bandaged it fast, gagging, but the giggling started up again, loud and close, like she was right there watching me bleed. I don't know if she's in my head or in my apartment, but she's here, and it's getting harder to tell what's real. Tonight, I heard knocking, slow, heavy thumps on my front door, and I froze, salt in one hand, flashlight in the other, too scared to check. It went on for 10 minutes, then stopped, and when I finally looked, there was nothing, no one, just a single splinter wedged in the doorframe, twitching like it was alive. I yanked it out, burned it in the sink, but the smoke smelled like her, like that rotting tree thing, and it filled the room until I had to open a window. The candles burning a Dunai didn't light it tanned. The flame's taller now, flickering like it's trying to say something. My scars are warm all the time, itching like crazy, and I keep humming that damn tune without meaning to. I'm not sleeping tonight. I can't. I just sit here, staring at the walls, waiting for the next thing, because there's always a next thing. The root's not done, and I'm starting to think it never will be. Mirror. And my eyes looked wrong, just for a split second, like they flashed amber before going back to normal. I ripped the towel off the mirror to check again, but it was just me, pale, freaked out, nothing else. Still, my hands were trembling, and those veins on my neck are thicker now, snaking up behind my ears, cold and hard under my fingers. The giggling's constant, a background hum that spikes whenever I try to rest. And I swear I heard Ripe whispered in it once, clear as anything. I've stopped eating much. Everything tastes like that sour rot. Even water, and my stomach's been twisting, like something's growing in there too. The splinter scars on my ankle are splitting open again, tiny red-black threads poking out, and I've been picking at them, too scared to see a doctor. What would I even say? I'm falling apart, and it's all tied to that damn house. This morning, I found salt piled up in my shoes, both pairs, like someone filled them while I wasn't looking. And the candle was on my pillow when I woke up, still lit, wax dripping onto the sheets. I threw it out the window this time, watched it shatter on the pavement, but an hour later, it was back on the table, burning like nothing happened. The knocking came again too, louder, and I saw shadows moving under the door, long thin ones like the others, scraping at the floor. I shouted at them to leave me alone, voice cracking, but they just scratched harder, and the walls creaked like they were answering back. My phone's dead again, won't charge. Just shows that cracked screen with the old tech stand. I keep hearing that buzzing. Faint, but there, like the house is calling me back. I don't want to go, but my scars burn every time I think about it, pulling me, and I'm terrified I'll wake up there one night, not knowing how I got in. I'm losing track of time. Now days blur together, and I don't know if it's been a week or two since that night at 13 Willow. The veins are everywhere, creeping across my chest, and when I press on them, I feel this slow, steady pulse. That's not my heartbeat, it's deeper, heavier, like something else is alive in me. The giggling's turned into whispers, a constant murmur I can't shut out, and sometimes I catch words, root, fruit, 7, over and over, like a broken record. My hands shake all the time, and last night I dropped a glass it shattered, and the shards had those red-black veins running through them, like the house infected that too. I swept it up, but the broom's bristles came away sticky, and that sour smell filled the room again, so strong I had to sit down. My ankles, worse, those threads are longer, curling out like tiny roots, and I can't stop picking at them, even though it hurts. I'm scared to look in the mirror now, scared I'll see her staring back. The candle won't leave me alone. It's always there, lit, no matter how many times I smash it or chuck it out. This afternoon, I found it in my fridge, burning cold somehow, with that red liquid pooled around it. Thicker now, almost solid. I grabbed it, burned my hand on the flame, and threw it against the wall wax, splattered. But it was back on the table 10 minutes later, like I'd done nothing. The knocking's heavier too, shaking the door frame. And last night, I saw the shadows push through, fingers curling under the gap, bony and black, scraping at my floor. I dumped salt on them, and they hissed, pulling back, but the line's still there, glowing weak, like it's running out of juice. The buzzing's louder, a hum in my bones, and my scars feel like they're splitting open, warm and wet. I keep thinking I'll wake up and it'll be over, but it's not. It's just quiet sometimes, waiting, and I know it's not done with me yet. I don't even feel like me anymore. My body's not right, and my head's a mess, like something's rewriting me from the inside. The veins are up to my face now, faint lines under my eyes, and when I caught my reflection today, they glowed for a second dull, reddish black, like embers. I smashed the mirror after that, glass everywhere, but the shards had those same veins in them, pulsing slow, and I just left them on the floor. The whispers are louder, full sentences now. The root needs you. You're the last fruit, and they don't stop, even when I scream at them to shut up. My hands feel rough, like bark's growing under the skin, and when I clench them, they crack, little splinters poking out. The ankle threads are worse, longer, thicker, and last night I swear one moved, curling up my leg like it was looking for something. I yanked it out, blood and that red-black crap dripping, but it hurt so bad I almost passed out. I'm terrified I'm turning into her, into whatever Mabel was. The house is in my apartment. Now I know it sounds crazy, but it's here. The walls creak the same way, that heavy, alive sound, and the sour smells so thick I can't breathe without tasting it. The candle's burning brighter, flame dancing like it's laughing, and that red liquid's everywhere, drops on the counter, smears on my door, even in my sink, bubbling like it's alive. The shadows, the others are bolder, slipping out of corners, their bony hands brushing my legs when I walk by, cold and real. I dumped all my salt around the apartment, lines at every door and window. But it's not holding, they push through, hissing, and the glow's fading fast. The knocking's constant, a slow thud that shakes everything. And last night I heard her voice, Mabel's, warped and deep, say, "Come home, Eliza. My scars are burning. My whole body's buzzing, and I'm fighting it, but I don't know how much longer I can. It's pulling me back, and I'm too tired to keep running. I can't fight it anymore." Last night, I woke up standing at my door, hand on the knob, like I was about to walk out, and I don't remember getting there. The salt lines were gone, swept away, and the candle was in my other hand, lit wax dripping hot on my skin. I dropped it, stumbled back, but the flame didn't go out, it spread, crawling up the wall in thin red-black streaks, like the house was bleeding into mine. The veins on my face are brighter, glowing when I'm mad or scared. And my eyes, God, my eyes keep flashing amber, longer each time, like hers. The whispers are screaming now. The root's ripe, you're ripe, over and over. And my head's splitting from it. My hands are splitting to literally skin cracking open, splinters pushing out, and I can feel them growing, slow and sharp, like I'm becoming wood. The threads on my ankle are roots now, thick and black, digging deeper, and I can't pull them out anymore. They're part of me. I'm losing, and I know it. The shadows are everywhere, crawling on the ceiling, clawing at my bed, their pinprick eyes staring right through me. The knocking stopped, but the door's open now. I didn't touch. It had that buzzing so loud it's shaking my teeth. I tried calling for help, dialed 911, but all I got was static and her voice, Mabel's, giggling. No one's coming. The candle's on the floor, flame huge, and the red liquid's pooling around it, bubbling up into shapes' faces, hands, roots reaching for me. My scars are splitting wide, warm and wet, and I can feel something moving inside them, pushing out. I grabbed the last of my salt, threw it at the pool, and it hissed, shrank back, but the shadows lunged, pinning my arms, cold and heavy. I screamed, kicked, but they dragged me to the door, and I saw it, 13 Willow Street, right outside, like my apartment's gone, and I'm back there. The girls on the porch, smiling, and my body's burning, buzzing, giving in. I don't want to go, but I can't stop. I couldn't stop them. The shadows pulled me out, their grip like ice, and my feet dragged across the floor, splinters snapping off my hands as I clawed at the doorframe. The air outside hit me, thick with that sour rot, and there it was, 13 Willow Street, looming right where my street should have been, like it had swallowed everything else. The girl was closer now, her amber eyes glowing, and her arms were branching, just like Mabel's, reaching out slow and steady. My scars were screaming, splitting wider, and I felt those roots in my ankle twist, pulling me forward like they were tethered to the house. The candle was in her hand now, flame roaring, and that red-black pool spread across the lawn, pulsing, alive, calling me. The whispers turned into a chant again, fast and deep, and my head throbbed with it. 7 fruits, 7 nights. The root takes its last, over and over. I tried to scream, but my throat cracked, and all that came out was a rasp, like hers. My body wasn't mine any more. It moved, step by step, toward her, toward that door. I hit the porch, and the house groaned, loud and low, like it was waking up just for me. The shadows let go, but I didn't run, couldn't. My legs locked, roots digging into the wood under my feet, anchoring me there. She stepped aside, giggling, and the door swung open, spilling that red-black light, thick and warm, pulling me in. My arms were heavy, branching now, skin splitting all the way up, and I felt at the root, deep inside, curling around my chest, my heart squeezing. The chant stopped, the buzzing stopped, everything went silent, and I stumbled inside. The door slammed shut, and it was just me and the house, no girl, no shadows, just that pulse, that smell, that weight. I don't know how long I stood there, minutes, hours, but then it all quit. The light faded, the roots went cold, and I was alone, shaking, alive, but not free. I walked out, back to my car somehow, and drove home. No pull, no nothing, just quiet, like it let me go. But I know it didn't. I got back to my apartment, and it was normal too, normal, no candle, no shadows, no red-black crap anywhere. The salt was still on the floor where I'd left it, untouched, and the air was clean. No sour stink, no buzzing. My hands were mine again, rough, scarred, but no splinters, no branches, and the veins on my arms were faint, just lines now, not pulsing. I checked my ankle, and the roots were gone, just ugly scars that didn't itch anymore. The mirror showed me just me, no amber eyes, no glowing marks, and I sat there, staring, waiting for it to start again. But it didn't. The giggling was gone, the whispers too, and my phone stayed dead. No texts, no calls. It was like 13 Willow hit pause, like that night just stopped, same as before. No explanation, no reason. I should have felt relieved, but I didn't. I felt empty, like something was missing, like I'd left part of me in that house. It's been days since then, and nothing's happened. No knocking, no shadows, No pull back to Willow Street. The girl's still out there. I saw her in town yesterday. Amber eyes flicking my way, but she didn't come closer, just watched. My scars don't hurt, but they're warm sometimes. A faint reminder. And I keep salt in my pockets anyway, just in case. I don't know why it let me go. Why it stopped that night after dragging me in. Maybe I wasn't ripe enough. Maybe the root got what it wanted. The house is quiet now, or so people say, but I don't trust it. I still hear that chant in my dreams. Still feel those roots in my chest when I wake up gasping. It's over, sure, but it doesn't feel over. It feels like it's waiting, like it's always been waiting. And I'm stuck knowing it could start again any time. I can't explain it, can't forget it, and I'm scared I'll never be free of that damn route. I keep going back and forth in my head, trying to figure out what happened, why it stopped. But it's like chasing smoke, nothing sticks. The scars are all I've got left. These rough, warm patches that don't fade. And sometimes I catch myself tracing them, like they're a map I can't read. I drove by 13 Willow again last night. Not close, just enough to see it hand. It was dark, silent, same as always, but my chest tightened, and those veins on my arms lit up, just for a second, like they remembered. The Crawfords are still there, acting normal, and that girl's always around, her amber eyes following me from a distance, never saying a word. I don't know if she's Mabel, or the next one, or something else entirely. I don't want to know. The candle hasn't come back. The shadows haven't either, but I keep salt by my bed anyway. Keep my windows locked, keep waiting for that buzz to start again. It's quiet now, yeah, but it's the kind of quiet that feels like a lie, like the house is just resting, not gone. Today, I found something, a tiny note slipped under my door. Same shaky handwriting as before. The root sleeps, but it dreams of you. I burned it fast, watched the ashes scatter, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking, and that warm itch in my scars flared up, sharp and sudden. I don't know who left it threshold. The Blackwoods, the girl, but it's proof it's not over. Not really. I'm marked, tied to that place, and I can't shake the feeling I'll end up back there. Dragged in by those roots, I can still feel deep down. It stopped that night, sure, just like it started out of nowhere, but I don't buy it's done. It's too neat, too sudden. I'm still me, still here, but I'm not free, not even close. I keep living, keep pretending, but every creak, every shadow, I'm right back at 13 Willow, and I know it's waiting for me. Always will be. I've started avoiding mirrors altogether now. Every time I pass one, I swear I see something flicker. Not my face, but hers. Those amber eyes staring back, waiting. Last night, I woke up to my breath fogging in the air, cold like Mabel's room, and my scars were glowing again, faint but real, lighting up the dark. I stumbled to the window half asleep and saw it, 13 Willow Street, right across the street, where my neighbor's house should have been, just for a second before it blinked away. My heart was pounding, and I checked my arms. Those veins were pulsing, warm and alive, like they knew what I'd seen. I don't know if it was a dream or real, but it felt real, and that sour smell lingered in my room all morning, faint but there. I keep telling myself it's over, that the route let me go, but then why's it still messing with me? Why can't I shake it? I'm scared to sleep now, scared to leave, scared it's not done playing with me. This afternoon, I got a call, no number, just static at first, then her voice, soft and raspy. You're still ours, Eliza. I dropped the phone, watched it hit the floor, and it kept talking, giggling, chanting that same damn tune until I stomped it to pieces. The scars flared up after burning so bad I doubled over, and I swear I felt something shift inside me, deep in my chest, like roots tightening. I don't know what I am anymore, human, fruit, whatever they wanted, but I know I'm not free. It stopped that night. Yeah, slammed shut like a door, but it's not gone. It's just hiding, waiting, dreaming, like the note said. I'm stuck with it, with them, and every day I feel it pulling me back, quiet but strong. I can't explain it, can't stop it, and I'm starting to think I never will. 13 Willows got me, and it's not letting go. I can't even trust my own shadow anymore. Last night, I saw it move on the wall, stretching longer than it should have, branching out like hers. Even though I was standing still, I turned off all the lights, sat in the dark, but my scars kept glowing, faint red-black pulses that lit up the room, and I couldn't stop staring at them. The air got heavy again, that buzzing creeping back, and I heard it scratching, soft but close, right under my bed. I didn't look, couldn't, Just pulled my knees up and clutched the salt, shaking until it stopped at dawn. When I checked this morning, there were marks deep, fresh gouges in the floor, like the ones in Mabel's room, and a single splinter, twitching, stuck in the wood. I burned it, but the smoke curled into my lungs, sour and thick, and I coughed until I tasted that red-black rot. It's not just in my head, it's here, in my space, and I'm running out of ways to pretend it's not. I went to the library today, desperate for answers, digging through old town records about 13 Willow Street. Every 8 years, new families, amber-eyed kids, disappearances, same pattern, same house, back to 1897, just like I'd found before. But there was one photo, grainy and old, of a girl who looked like Mabel, like the Crawford girl, standing on that porch, and my scars burned when I saw it, like they recognized her. I left fast, head spinning, and when I got home, the candle was backlit, on my desk, with that note again. The root sleeps, but it dreams of you. I didn't burn it this time, just stared, feeling that pull, that itch, knowing it's not over. It stopped that night, sure, went quiet like it always does, but it's still alive, still waiting, and I'm the thread it's tugging. I don't know how long I've got before it pulls me back for good, but I feel it coming, and I'm too damn tired to keep fighting. I'm starting to lose pieces of myself. Last night, I blanked out for hours, came to standing in my kitchen with my hands covered in salt and that red-black goo. No clue how it got there. The candle was burning on the counter, flame flickering like it was laughing, and my scars were warm, pulsing in time with it, like they were talking back. I washed my hands, scrubbed until they bled, but the smell wouldn't leave, sour metallic. Alive, and I found more scratches on the walls, thin and jagged, like the house was carving itself into my place. My reflection's off now, too. I risked a look in the broken mirror, and my face was mine. But my eyes, those damn amber flecks, are staying longer, staring back like they're not me. The buzzing's constant, a low hum in my bones, and I keep catching that chant in my head, 7 fruits, 7 nights, like it's stuck on repeat. I don't know if I'm dreaming or awake half the time, but I know it's her, them, the root, pulling me apart bit by bit. I tried leaving again today, got halfway out of town before my car died, same spot as before, and there she was, the amber-eyed girl, standing in the road with that rag doll, smiling like she knew I'd try. My scars flared, roots twisting inside, and I turned back, crying the whole way, because I can't escape. It's in me now, deeper than I thought. When I got home, my door was wide open, salt scattered everywhere, and the candle was on my bed, lit, with that red liquid pooling into a shape, a hand, reaching up, fingers curling like they wanted me. The shadows were there too, hovering, whispering my name, and I threw salt at them, screaming, but they just laughed. Her laugh, Mabel's laugh, faded. It's not stopping, not really. It's playing with me, letting me think it's quiet before it yanks me back. I'm not free, never was, and I'm starting to think that night didn't end, just stretched out, waiting for me to break. I can't tell what's real anymore. Last night, I woke up choking, my mouth full of that red-black rot, thick and warm, like I'd swallowed it in my sleep. I ran to the sink, spat it out, and it moved, crawling slow across the porcelain, veins pulsing, before I blasted it with water and watched it swirl down the drain. My scars were bleeding again, not much, just enough to stain my shirt, and when I looked, there weren't scars anymore, cracks, splitting wide, with tiny roots poking out, curling like they were reaching for air. The buzzing's in my head now, not just my bones, and it's loud, drowning out everything else, mixed with her giggling, her voice saying, "You're home, Eliza," over and over. I tried taping my mouth shut to sleep, but I woke up with it off, salt in my hair, and the candle burning right next to me, flame taller than ever. The shadows were there too, sitting on my chest, heavy and cold, staring with those pinprick eyes until I screamed them away. I'm not me, I'm hers, theirs, and it's eating me alive. Today I saw the house again, not outside, but in my living room. The walls shifted, floral wallpaper peeling, and that sour smell hit me so hard I gagged. It was there, 13 Willow, right where my couch should have been. Door open, red-black light spilling out, and the girl was inside, waving me in with that splintered hand. I blinked, and it was gone back to my apartment, but my scars burned, and my feet twitched like they'd started walking without me. The candle's everywhere now, on the table, in the fridge, under my bed, and I can't get rid of it. It's back every time I turn around, lit and dripping. The roots in my chest are tighter, squeezing when I breathe, and I keep humming that tune, louder, like it's coming from me now. It stopped that night, sure, went silent like a switch flipped, but it's not gone, it's in me, growing, waiting. I'm scared I'll wake up there, or worse, that I'm already there and don't know it. I'm breaking apart last night. I felt it, the roots in my chest snapping tight, and I coughed up more of that red-black crap, thick and stringy, right onto my floor. It didn't just sit there, moved slithering toward the candle, which was burning on my nightstand again, flame roaring like a damn torch. My hands are worse, splitting open every time I move them, splinters falling out, and when I tried to sweep them up, they twitched, curling into little knots before I burned them. The veins on my face are glowing all the time now, lighting up my reflection in the dark, and my eyes are half amber, half mine, staring back like I'm sharing my head with her. The buzzing's so loud I can't think, and the whispers are screaming. The root's full. You're full! Until I'm clawing at my ears to make it stop. The shadows don't leave any more there in every corner, watching, waiting, their bony hands brushing my skin whenever I pass. I'm not sleeping. Can't. Just sit there feeling it grow, knowing I'm losing. This morning I found my door open again, salt gone, and footprints mine, bare and bloody leading out to the hall, like I'd walked somewhere and come back. I don't remember it, but my shoes were wet, grass stuck to them, and my scars were warm, like I'd been to 13 Willow without knowing. The candle was on the floor when I got back, lit, with that red liquid pooled around it, shaping into roots that reached for me. I stomped it, smashed it, but it was back on the table an hour later, untouched. The girl's voice is in my head now, not just whispers, clear, sharp, saying, "You're the last, Eliza, come home." My body's buzzing, burning, and I keep catching myself stepping toward the door, stopping just in time. It stopped that night. Yeah, went quiet like it was done, but it's not, it's me now. The root's in me, and I can't cut it out. I'm terrified I'll go back, or that I already have, and this is all just the house dreaming me alive. I don't know how much of me is left last night. I woke up with my hands in the air, branching out, splinters snapping off and hitting the floor like rain, and I couldn't stop it. The roots in my chest are choking me now, tight and hot, and when I breathe, it's shallow, like something's taking up all the space inside. My eyes are full, amber-eyed, checked in the dark, and they glowed. No trace of me left in them, just her, staring back. The candle was burning on my bed, wax pooling into that red-black mess, and it moved, crawled up the wall, veins pulsing, like the house was growing right there. The shadows were dancing, chanting fast. 7 nights, 7 fruits. The root eats its last. And I screamed, but my voice came out wrong, raspy and deep, like Mabel's. My ankle's a mess, roots bursting out, anchoring me to the floor. And I can't pull free, they're too strong, too alive. I'm not just marked anymore, I'm hers, theirs, and it's happening fast. Today, I didn't fight it, I couldn't. The buzzing took over, loud and heavy, and my legs moved, dragging me out the door, down the street, straight to 13 Willow. The girl was there, waiting, smiling with that splintered face, and the house opened up, red-black light flooding out, warm and pulling. My scar split wide, roots spilling out, curling around my arms, my neck, and I felt it, the root, deep and hungry, swallowing me whole. I stepped inside, and it was quiet, no chanting, no giggling, just that pulse, that weight, wrapping me up. The door shut, and I stood there, feeling it sink into me, every crack, every vein, until it stopped sudden, silent, like it had finished. I walked out, back home, no pull, no fight, just me again, or what's left of me. It's over, I think, but my scars are still warm, my eyes still flicker, and I know it's not gone, it's just full, for now, waiting for the next cycle, the next me. I'm back in my apartment now, sitting here like nothing happened, but everything's off. My hands shake when I hold a glass, and my reflection's still got those amber flecks, faint, but they're watching me. The roots in my chest are quiet, cold again, like they've settled, but I feel them shift sometimes, a little twist when I'm not expecting it, reminding me they're still in there. The candles go, no sign of it, no wax, no red-black mess, and the shadows aren't lurking anymore, but my walls have scratches I didn't make, deep and rough, like the house left its mark anyway. My ankle's scarred over, no more roots poking out, but it itches, warm and restless, and I keep catching that sour smell on my clothes, my skin like it's baked into me. The buzzing's gone, the whispers too, and it's so quiet I can hear my own heartbeat. But it's not just mine, there's something else in it, slow and deep, keeping time. It stopped that night, slammed shut like always, but I'm not dumb. It's not over. It's just hiding, waiting. I saw her again today, the amber-eyed girl walking past my window, rag doll in hand, and she didn't look at me, didn't stop, just kept going like I didn't matter anymore. My scars flared when she passed, a quick burn, and I wondered if I'm done. If the root's full and I'm freer, if I'm just the next piece, waiting to ripen again. The town's quiet, 13 Willows dark, and nobody's talking about it, same as always. But I know better. It's been 8 years since the last one, and I'm the thread they pulled this time. I keep salt by my bed, check my eyes every morning, and wait for that pull to start again, because it will. I feel it. It stopped. Yeah, went silent like a door locking, but it's not gone. It's in me, dreaming, biding its time. I can't explain it, can't run from it, and I'm stuck living with it, knowing one day I'll wake up back there. Or worse, I won't wake up at all. I'm starting to notice the little things again. Last night, I found salt sprinkled on my pillow. Not much, just enough to crunch under my head, and I don't know how it got there. My scars don't glow anymore, but they're warm all the time now, like they're alive. And when I press on them, I feel that slow pulse, steady and deep, like the roots still ticking away inside me. The apartment's too quiet, no creaks, no whispers, but it's the kind of quiet that makes your skin crawl, like something's holding its breath right behind you. I keep seeing shadows flicker, not the others, just shapes that don't fit like my own, stretching too long, or hers, branching out for a second before it's gone. My eyes are mostly mine again, but every now and then, I catch that amber glint, quick and sharp, and it stops my heart. The sour smells fainter, but it's there, clinging to my hair, my hands, and I can't wash it off. It's me now. It stopped that night. Sure, went dead silent, but it's not finished. It's waiting, and I'm the one it's watching. This morning, I got another note, no envelope, just a scrap of paper on my table. Same shaky writing. The root dreams, and you dream with it. I didn't burn it this time, kept it, stared at it, because maybe it's true. Maybe that's why I wake up tasting rot, feeling roots I can't see. The girl's still out there. I saw her today, standing across the street, amber eyes locked on my window, and she smiled, just a little, like she knows something I don't. My scars burned when she did, and I felt that pull again. Not strong, not yet, but there, tugging me back to 13 Willow. It's quiet now, stopped like it always does, but I know the cycle. 8 years, 7 fruits, and I'm in it, part of it, whether I want to be or not. I can't explain why it let me go that night, why it's paused, but I feel it dreaming, feel it waiting, and I'm scared I'll walk back there one day, or wake up already inside, with no way out. It's not over, it never will be. I can't shake the dreams now. Every night, it's the same. I'm back at 13 Willow, standing in that red-black light, roots curling out of me, wrapping the house like I'm feeding it. I wake up gasping, hands clawing at my chest. And last night, I found dirt under my nails, real dirt, wet and black, like I'd been digging somewhere. My scars were warm again, almost hot, and when I checked them, they'd split a little, just enough to leak that red-black ooze, slow and thick, before it stopped. The candle hasn't come back, but I keep finding wax on my floor, teeny drops, fresh, like it's still burning somewhere I can't see. The buzzing's faint, a whisper in my ears, and that sour smells stronger when I sleep, like the house is creeping into my head while I'm out. I don't know if I'm going crazy or if it's real, but my shadow's wrong again. Last night, it branched out on the wall, just for a second, and I swear I heard her giggle, soft and close. It stopped that night, yeah, but it's not gonna. It's in me, dreaming me back. I saw the girl again today. She was closer this time, right outside my door, rag doll dangling, and she didn't move, just stared with those amber eyes until I slammed the curtains shut. My scars burned so bad I dropped to my knees, and I felt it, that pull, stronger, yanking me toward 13 Willow like a rope around my neck. I didn't go, fought it, but my hands were shaking, and I kept humming that damn tune, louder than ever, like it's part of me now. The note's still on my table, the root dreams, and you dream with it, and I can't stop reading it, can't stop feeling it's right. It's quiet out there, stopped like a clock running down. But I know better, it's not done. Not with me. The root's full, maybe. Or maybe I'm still ripening, waiting for the next tug. I live with it every day, waiting, watching my scars, my eyes, knowing it'll call me back. I can't explain why it paused, why it let me walk away. But it's there, always there, and I'm stuck in its shadow. I'm starting to lose the line between me and it last night. I didn't just dream of 13 Willow. I felt it, the house breathing around me, my roots sinking into its floors, like I was part of the walls. I woke up on the floor, not my bed, with my hands pressed flat against the wood, and there were scratches underneath. My scratches, fresh and deep, like I'd clawed them in my sleep. My scars were bleeding again, slow and warm, and when I wiped it off, it wasn't just red-black. Anymore, it had tiny veins, pulsing, like it was alive before it dried up. The buzzing's back, not loud, just enough to rattle my skull, and I keep hearing her, Mabel, the girl, whatever, whispering my name, soft and close, like she's right behind me. My eyes are amber half the time now, glowing in the dark, and I can't stop them. I'm her mirror, her echo, and it's swallowing me. The candle's gone, sure, but I found wax in my hair this morning, sticky and warm, like it had melted over me while I slept. It stopped that night, went quiet, but it's not stopped. It's me now, growing, waiting. I tried burning it out. Today took a lighter to my scars, just one, to see if I could kill it, stop it, anything. The flame hit my skin, and it hurt. God, it hurt. But the red-black stuff didn't burn. It bubbled, hissed, and the roots in my chest twisted so hard I dropped the lighter, screaming. My hand's blistered now, but the scar's still there, warm and alive. And I swear I heard her laugh, loud and clear, right in my ear. The shadows came back too, just for a minute, crawling up the walls, their bony fingers pointing at me, like I'd pissed them off. I dumped salt everywhere, every corner, but it's not glowing anymore. Not fighting, it's just salt. Useless, and the buzzing's louder, pulling me. I keep seeing 13 Willow in my head. The door open, the girl waiting, and my feet itch to go. My scars burned to go, like I belong there. It's not over, it never wasn't. I'm running out of me to give. I can't keep it together anymore. Last night, I didn't sleep, didn't dream. Just stood in my living room, staring at the wall. And it changed, peeled back to that floral wallpaper from 13 Willow, dripping with that red-black rot. I didn't blink, didn't move, but my hands were branching again, splinters falling, and I felt the roots in my chest stretch, reaching out like they were trying to touch it. My voice wasn't mine. I hummed that tune, loud and rough, and the shadows danced, swirling around me, their whispers turning into her giggle, echoing in my skull. My eyes were full amber, glowing so bright I saw them reflect on the floor, and when I touched my face, it was hard, cracking, like bark under my fingers. The buzzing was everywhere, shaking the room, and I swear the house, the real one, was there, right there, door open, pulling me in. I didn't go, not yet, but my scars split wide, spilling that veiny mess, and I felt at the root, hungry, alive, eating what's left of me. It stopped that night, sure, but it's not stopped its winning. Today, I gave up. I walked to 13 Willow, not dragged, not pulled, just went, because I couldn't fight it anymore. The girl was on the porch, smiling, and the house was quiet, dark, but I felt it breathe when I got close, felt it know me. My scars burned, my roots twisted, and I stepped inside. The red-black light swallowed me, warm and heavy, and the door shut soft behind me. It was just me in the house, no shadows, no giggling, just that pulse, deep and slow, wrapping me up. I stood there, feeling it sink, and my hands stopped branching. My eyes dimmed, and the roots went cold, like they'd finished. Then it let me go. Door opened, light faded, and I walked out. Back home, no fight, no nothing. It's quiet now, stopped like it always does. But I know it's not gone. It took what it wanted, left me hollow, and I'm still here, waiting for the next itch, the next pull, because it's never really over. I don't feel human anymore. Last night, I caught myself standing outside my apartment, barefoot in the cold, staring at nothing, and my hands were dripping that red-black stuff, pooling on the ground like it was leaking out of me. I don't remember leaving my bed, but my scars were warm, pulsing, and when I got back inside, the floor had those scratches again, deep, jagged, like I'd dragged something heavy across it. My eyes are stuck amber now, no flickering back, and when I look at them, I see her Mabel, the girl, the route staring out, like I'm just a shell she's wearing. The buzzing's quiet, but it's there, a hum in my veins. And I keep hearing that chant, 7 fruits, 7 nights. The root takes its last, soft but clear, like it's carved into me. My hands crack when I move them, splinters falling, and the roots in my chest don't hurt anymore. They feel right, like they belong. The house stopped that night, went silent, but it's not silent in it's alive, growing, and I'm losing the fight to care. I went back to 13 Willow again today, not because it pulled me, but because I wanted to, needed to, like it's home now. The girl wasn't there, just the house, dark and still. But when I touched the door, it opened, and that red-black light hit me, warm and thick, pulling me in. My scars split wide, roots spilling out, curling into the floor, and I felt at the root, deep and full, sinking into me, taking everything. It didn't hurt, didn't scare me, it just was, and I let it happen. Stood there as the house breathed around me, alive with me. Then it stopped, light gone, door open, and I walked out, empty but calm, like it had finished whatever it started. I'm back here now, sitting in my apartment, scars cold, eyes glowing, and it's quiet too, quiet like it's done for now. But I know it's not over, it's in me, waiting, dreaming, and I'm part of it, always will be, until it calls again. I'm not sure what I am anymore. Last night, I didn't sleep. Just sat there feeling the roots shift in my chest, slow and heavy, like they're settling in for good. My hands don't feel like hands. When I touch things, they crack, leaving splinters behind. And this morning, I found one stuck in my coffee mug, twitching before it went still. My eyes glow constant now, amber and bright, and I don't bother hiding them. They're hers, mine, ours, and I can't tell the difference. The apartment's changing to Walls Creek, like 13 Willow. That sour smell's back, and I found a drop of that red-black rot on my table, alive, pulsing, like it followed me home. The buzzing's gone, the shadows too, but I hear her giggle sometimes, faint and quick, like it's stitched into my head. My scars don't bleed anymore, they're hard, warm, part of me, and when I press them, I feel that pulse, deep and steady, like the root's heartbeat. It stopped that night, sure, but it's not stopped, it's me, and I'm it, and I don't know where I end and it begins. Today, I stood outside 13 Willow again, just looking, and the house didn't pull me in it, didn't need to. I'm already there, inside it, part of it. The door stayed shut, no girl, no light, just silence, but my scars flared, and I felt the roots move, curling tighter, like they were saying hello. I didn't go in, didn't have to, because I carry it with me, in my skin, my eyes, my breath. I walked away, back home, and nothing happened. No chant, no shadows, just quiet. The kind that sits heavy and wrong. It's over for now, stopped like it always does, sudden and clean. But I know the truth, it's not gone, not finished. It's full, fed, waiting, and I'm the last piece, the last fruit, dreaming with it until the next cycle spins up. I live with it, wait for it, and every day I feel it. 13 Willow, the root, my all one, and I can't escape what I've become. I don't fight it anymore. Last night, I felt the roots in my chest spread, slow and warm, wrapping around my ribs like they're claiming me for good. I didn't scream, didn't panic. I just sat there, breathing shallow, letting it happen, and my hands branched out again, splinters falling onto my lap, alive for a second before they stopped. My eyes don't dim, now full amber, glowing steady end. When I looked in the cracked mirror, it wasn't my face staring back, not really. It was hers, Mabel's, the girl's, with my features stretched over it, like a mask slipping off. The apartment's not mine anymore. Walls, pulse, that floral wallpaper's creeping in, and the floor is sticky with that red-black rot, pooling in corners like it's growing. I hear her all the time now, not just giggles. Her voice, soft and raspy, saying, "You're home, you're us." And I don't argue, don't run. The buzzing's back, faint but deep, and my scars hum with it, warm and alive, like they're singing back. It stopped that night, went quiet, but it's not quiet, it's loud in me, and I'm part of the noise. I went to 13 Willow one last time today, not because I had to, but because it felt right, like closing a loop. The house was there, dark and still, no girl on the porch, no light spilling out, Just that heavy silence that pulls you in. I touched the door, and it opened slow, creaking like it knew me. And I stepped inside. The red-black rot was everywhere, coating the walls, the floor, warm under my feet. My scars split wide, roots pouring out, sinking into the house. And I felt at the root, full and heavy, merging with me, taking me in. It didn't hurt, didn't scare me. It was calm, final, like I'd been running toward this all along. The door shut, the light faded, and I stood there, part of it, until it stopped sudden, silent, like always. I walked out, back to my life, my apartment. But I'm not me anymore. I'm 13 Willow, the root, the cycle, and it's quiet now, stopped for real, but only until it dreams again. I'm living with it now. Days pass, and I go through the motions, but it's all hollow, like I'm just waiting for the next pull. My hands don't branch anymore. My scars don't bleed, but they're warm, always warm. And when I press them, I feel that pulse, slow and deep, keeping time with something I can't see. The apartment's settled, no more wallpaper, no more rot pet. I find splinters sometimes, tiny ones, stuck in the floor, the couch, my skin, like little reminders. My eyes stay amber, glowing in the dark, and people notice, strangers stare. Friends ask if I'm okay, but I don't answer, don't explain. The girl's still out there. I see her around town, watching, smiling, but she doesn't come close, doesn't need to. The buzzing's gone, the whispers too, and it's so quiet I can hear my own thoughts. But they're not all mine, not anymore. It stopped that night, cut off clean, but it's not gone. It's in me, waiting, dreaming, and I'm tied to it forever. Sometimes I feel it wake up, just a twitch, a hum in my chest, and I know it's not over, not really. Last night, I found a new scratch on my wall, fresh and deep, and a drop of that red-black rot next to it, pulsing once before it dried. My scars flared, my eyes glowed brighter, and I heard her, Mabel, the root, whisper, soon, soft and clear, like a promise. I didn't panic, didn't fight. I just nodded, because I get it. 9, the last fruit, the 7th, and it's full, but not finished. The house stopped, went silent like it always does, but it's biding its time, dreaming with me, through me. I live my days, wait my nights, and every shadow, every creak, I feel it. 13 Willow, alive in me, ready to start again. I can't run, can't hide, and I don't want to. It's me now, and I'm it, until the cycle spins back up. I don't leave town anymore. Tried once, got to the edge, and my scars burned so bad I turned back without a fight. The roots in my chest don't move much, but they're there, heavy and cold, like they've rooted me here, to Raven's Hollow, to 13 Willow. My eyes catch every shadow now, amber and sharp, and I see things, her, the girl, flickering in doorways, on street corners, always gone when I blink. The apartment's quiet, too quiet, but I found a splinter in my bed this morning, stuck in the sheets, and it twitched when I pulled it out, alive until I crushed it. People avoid me, say I look sick, say I'm different, and they're right. I feel it, the root, humming low, keeping me tethered. The silence is a lie. It stopped that night, sure, but it's not stopped. It's waiting, watching, and I'm the one it's watching through. I'm not scared anymore, just tired, ready, knowing it'll call when it's time. Today, I walked past 13 Willow, and it was normal, paint fresh, windows dark, no sign of the hell I lived. But my scars, new burned warm, pulsed once, and I felt the roots shift, like they were saying hi to an old friend. The girl was there, on the lawn, rag doll in hand, and she looked at me, nodded, like we're in this together now. I didn't go in, didn't need to. The house is in me, in my skin, my breath, my dreams, and I carry it everywhere. It's quiet, stopped, done for now, but I know the cycle. 8 years, 7 fruits, and I'm the last, or maybe the next, I can't tell. It let me go that night, spat me out, but it didn't let good stream in, full and patient, and I'm its keeper until it wakes. I live with it, wait for it, and one day I'll walk back in, or I won't, and it'll come for me anyway. I'm counting days now, not because I want to, but because I feel it. The quiet's too thick, too heavy, like it's building to something. My scars itch again, faint but real, and last night I woke up tasting that sour rot, my mouth dry, my hands clenched around nothing. The roots in my chest are still, but I feel them stretch sometimes, just a little, like they're testing me, seeing if I'll break. My eyes don't scare me anymore, Amber, glowing. Hers, and I catch myself staring at them in the dark, waiting for her to say something. The girl's closer now. I see her every day, outside my window, down the hall, always with that doll, always smiling, like she's counting too. The apartment's mine, but not mine. Splinters in the floor, that smell in the air. And I swear I heard the house groan once, soft and low, from my walls. It stopped that night, went dead. But it's not dead, it's alive, in me. And I'm alive with it, waiting for the next move. This morning, I found Itha, last note, scratched on my table, not paper, just carved into the wood. The root wakes when you do. My scars burned, my eyes glowed, and I felt it, the buzz, the pull, the roots twisting, all at once, like it was waking up right then. I didn't run, didn't scream. I just sat there, feeling it take me, knowing I'm not separate anymore. I'm 13, Willow, the root, the cycle, all of it. The girl was outside, closer than ever, and she whispered, now, through the glass, clear as day. Then it stopped again, silent, sudden, like it always does, leaving me here, hollow but full, me but not me. It's quiet now, stopped for real, but I know it's not over. It's dreaming, waiting, and I'm the one it dreams through. One day it'll wake, and I'll wake with it, back at 13, Willow, where I belong. I'm not living anymore, just existing. Last night, I didn't wake up in my bed, but outside, on the grass, halfway to 13, Willow, my hands dug into the dirt like I'd been clawing my way there. My scars were wide open, roots spilling out, curling into the ground, and my eyes glowed so bright I could see them light up the dark, amber and alive. I stumbled back home, shaking, but the roots didn't stop. They moved, slow and steady, pulling me back every step, like the house was reeling me in. The apartment's a shell now, walls pulse, that red-black rots back, dripping from the ceiling. And I found a splinter in my throat this morning, stuck there, twitching until I coughed it out. The buzzing's loud again, a roar in my head, and her voice Mabel's. The girls won't shut up, chanting, "You're us, you're home," until I'm humming it too. My voice, not mine. It stopped that night, went silent, but it's not silent, it's screaming in me, and I'm screaming with it, part of the song. Today, I didn't I let it take me. Walked to 13 Willow with my head clear, my scars burning, my roots dragging me forward. The house was waiting, door open, no girl, just that red-black light, thick and warm, swallowing me whole. I stepped in, and it closed around me. The roots in my chest burst out, sinking into the floor, the walls, and I felt it, the root, full, alive, me merging, final, complete. My eyes glowed, my hands branched, and I didn't move. Didn't need to. I was the house, the cycle, the end. Then it stopped, light out, door open, silence, like always, and I walked away, back to my life, empty but whole, me but not me. It's quiet now, stopped again, but I know it's not done. It's in me, full and dreaming, waiting for the next 8 years, the next fruit. I'm the last, or the first, and I'll be here when it wakes, because I'm 13 Willow now, forever. I can't escape it. Last night, I felt the roots snap tight, choking my breath, and I woke up with my hands around my own neck, splinters under my nails, like I'd tried to claw them out. My eyes don't blink right anymore, Amber, glowing, hers, and when I look at them, I see the house reflected, 13 Willow, staring back like it's inside me. The apartment's alive, now walls grown, rot spreads, and I found that candle again, lit on my table, flame steady, no matter how hard I blow it out. The buzzing's constant, a pulse in my skull, and the shadows are back, not lurking, but standing, watching, their bony hands brushing my face like they're welcoming me. My scars don't hurt, they hum, warm and ready, and the roots in my chest feel heavy, full, like they finished growing. It stopped that night, went dead, but it's not dead, it's me, and I'm it, and I'm waiting for the call I know's coming. I stood outside 13 Willow today, and it didn't need to pull me. The door opened, and I walked in. No fight, no fear, just knowing. The red-black rot was thick, coating everything, and my roots sank in, merging, pulling me down until I was part of it. Floor, walls, pulse, all one. The girl was there, smiling, her amber eyes mine, and she whispered, "Finished, soft, and final," before she faded. The light dimmed, the door swung wide, and it stopped silent, sudden, like always, leaving me to walk out, back to my shell of a life. It's quiet now, stopped for real, but it's not over. I feel it, the root dreaming in me, full and patient, waiting for the next cycle to spin. I'm not Eliza anymore, I'm 13 Willow, the root's last fruit, and I'll be here when it wakes, because it's me, and I'm it, and that's all there is.